Hello everyone. I thought it might be helpful to give you an overview of assignment number 2 for flowcharts for the Engineering 100 class. So let's go ahead and go to modules on your screen. So here I'm on the home page. I'm going to just move over to modules and select modules. And under module number 2, you should have already reviewed the PowerPoint presentation and taken the quiz. We do have an assignment. We'll talk about the assignment here shortly. I did create a short video on how to create flowchart symbols in Word, so if you haven't looked at this one yet, I would suggest that you look at it. And then I'm going to go to assignment number 2, flowcharts overview video. So this is where you're actually going to click to access this video, but since I'm making the video, we can't click there yet. So I'm going to move right on to the assignment, and I'm going to click on assignment number 2. So inside of Canvas, you can click here. We'll go ahead and we'll let it load. And here it is. And what I've done is I've taken this downloadable file and I've copied it onto this page. And so everything that you see on this page is actually in this downloadable file that I have open already. So I'm going to move to the downloadable file. It's just a little bit easier to work in. So I'm going to click on Word and I'm going to display that, that page that we want to see. And here's our assignment, just like you saw in Canvas. The assignment is worth 35 points total. It's broken down into 2 parts. Exercise 1 is on page 1, and exercise 2 is on page 2. Exercise 1 is where the bulk of the points are. It's worth 25 points. And so some of this I'll read, some of it I'll paraphrase, but what we basically want you to do is we want you to create a mini-level linear flowchart. And it says, before you draw the flowchart, review the following steps and answer the following questions. So this will aid you when you want to create your flowchart. So it basically says, what's your flowchart about? And I've listed an example, how to mow the lawn. If you're creating one on how to bake a cake or how to peel a carrot or how to blow your nose, that would be what your flowchart would be about. So you would simply type the answer in right here. Then we need to talk about process boundaries. Process boundaries are basically where you're going to start and where you're going to end. If you've looked at the video presentation that I created on the on how to create the flowchart symbols in Word, I've got an example of a flowchart in there that clearly shows a starting and an ending point, so you can review that video and you can see it. But one example might be if you wanted to bake a cake, you might gather all the ingredients to bake the cake. And the final execution or the end point might be eat the cake or take the cake out of the oven. So you need a beginning and an end. And then in between the beginning and the end, you're going to have a total of 6 other steps for this assignment. And I've listed the type of symbols that I want you to use. I want you to have 1 decision statement in there, which is the shape of a diamond, and we need 5 additional rectangles. So in total, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps total, no more, no less. So that's what we want to see is 8 steps. After you define all the steps, you want to put them in sequence, and you want to build your flowchart in Word. And once again, you can go to that video that shows you how to create the flowchart symbols in Word. It's pretty simple. And the point breakdown is here. If you take a look at the top, you get a point for defining it. You get 4 points for the end and the beginning and the end rather, and then you get 10 points for answering these, and you get 10 points for drawing your flowchart. And now we'll move on to exercise 2. This exercise is actually only worth 10 points. And if you go back to the PowerPoint presentations that you were supposed to have already viewed, it'll define the different levels of flowchart. One might be a macro, one might be a mini, and there is a third one. I won't tell you which one it is. And what type of flowchart is this? So there's lots of different types. There's distributed and so on and so forth. So you have to decide what type of flowchart is. So if you go back once again and you review in the PowerPoint presentation, you'll find the answer to your question. And then what you're going to do is, this is a question right here. Are the symbols properly used? Now it's referring to the flowchart down here at the bottom. So you're just going to look at the symbols and you're going to make sure that if it is a decision statement, that perhaps you see a yes and a no, and it probably is used correctly. So you're going to evaluate these symbols to make sure. Okay, and then last but not least is step number 4. And step number 4 is asking you to identify 2 out of the 3 rework loops in this flowchart And a rework loop is generally attached to a diamond statement or a decision statement in the shape of a diamond. So let me give you an example that's not in this flowchart. Let's say that you work for a lumber company and you're cutting lumber, and the lumber that it's a 2x4, and every 2x4 that you cut has to be exactly 4 foot long. Well, you cut one of them long. Instead of being 4 foot long, it's 4 foot 1 inch. All right, you can establish a rework loop that says measure the 2x4 to make sure that it's 4 feet. So you measure it, it's 4 foot 1 inch. You can actually rework it, right? You can cut an additional inch off, so you could rework that part. If the part was short, you wouldn't be able to rework it. You can't glue wood onto the top of a 2x4. No one would purchase it. So that would probably just be thrown away. So you look for some type of rework loop. So I said that I would identify one out of the 3 in this video presentation. So if you read here, it says there are 3 rework loops in the fire drill prep flowchart. One was identified in the video presentation, which I'm going to identify here shortly. It wants you to identify the remaining 2. And so the way you're going to identify them is you're going to choose the shape that they're in. So if this was the answer, you would choose this shape, and you would say it's a rectangle. And then you would simply, after you put the word rectangle, you would put a comma, and then you would list the text in there so we can identify whether or not you've chosen it properly. So the one that I'm going to show you is right here. This is the rework loop right here, so it's always attached to a decision statement. Is there a discrepancy? All right, here's the rework. Correct it. So the correct answer for this would be correct it. So up here, there was a third answer box, you would type what? You would type rectangle, and you would type the word corrected. So you need to look for 2 more of these, and I think there's only 2 in here. And once again, they're always attached to a decision statement. Okay, I hope this clears things up. Anyway, once again, thank